decided, ruled in 2020 that the citizens in the diaspora and the prisoner inmates in the prisons have a right to vote because they are citizens. And therefore, they tasked the Electoral Commission to ensure that come to 2026, this crop of citizens should also be part of these electoral processes. However, it is one thing for the court to order that this be done. And it is another thing for that to be implemented, because the implementation process must follow set rules or guidelines in the law. The current legal framework, as we have, honorable members, allows for people to vote within the boundaries of Uganda on account of your place of residence, your parish of residence, or origin. And we all know that you cannot lift your domestic legislation and apply it on a foreign jurisdiction or country. No. So we cannot go to the United States and say, we are coming to register Ugandans in their places of residence, or no, parishes of residence. No. There must be an enabling law, honorable members, that permits us to register these voters either at the embassies or even setting up polling stations. Because now the law says you set up a polling, every electoral area should at least have a polling station. Are you going to set up polling stations in every state of the U.S. where the Ugandans are? Is that practical? So for us, we have said, once the enabling legal framework is put in place and in motion, then we shall have diasporans included. But for now, the legal framework as it is permits them to vote from Uganda, from their place of origin or residence. But since they are resident outside the country, they can only vote now from their place of origin. Now, on the prisoners, again, the law says that you cannot have a polling station within the precincts, the confines of a restricted area. Now, look at it, honorable members. If we put a polling station outside Luzira prison gates, now I don't know how many prisoners are there and how many will be eligible to vote. Do you see prisons allowing these people to come and vote outside that place? Someone has been inside for 20 years, is condemned to 50 years imprisonment. Won't he make a daring attempt to escape from this polling station? So these are some of the issues that reform in the law can address before we embark on saying, yes, now we can have this group of people also included on the voters register. But as a commission, we are already people are serving us, by the way, members, with the letters of notices of contempt of court. I have said, what do we do? You have not complied with the court order of having diasporans coming to voting, so you are in contempt. But where is the legal framework, is the question. Now, on IC equipment, I think honorable members have answered that. We are going to use the 36,000, which UBOS used during the national census exercise, but we need an additional, and I think that's the part of the budget and the funding, an additional about 12,000 to make at least 40,000, because we use some of these kits for training. One of the challenges we have discovered that some of these kits on polling day do not work because of the human beings operating them. And the training we do is not really adequate. They need a hands-on training. It's like taking someone to driving school. They make him sit in class, take notes. You engage gear number one. Now when you reach it, you turn an indicator. It must be hands-on. Some of them do not have the opportunity to make hands-on training process because one, we don't have enough kits. Two, the time is not there. The time is not enough because of funding. For you to train them for about a week or two, you have to pay them transport allowances because they come from villages and they come to the sub-county level where they can be trained from. So it's really a host of all things that makes the whole process. But as we head 2026, we pray and believe that these 36,000 kits that NIRA used, UBOS used during the census process, will should be operational and functional for our work. Now, the 667 vacancies in local government, Honorable members, you know the law says that once a vacancy occurs at any level, then the Electoral Commission shall conduct a by-election to fill that vacancy. In the case of Parliament, the 60 days. In the case of Chairman, the LC 5 and so on, it is 6 months. Now, these 667 is the cumulative figure that has emerged since the last elections in 2021. But to conduct a by-election, we need the funds. And in the budget, there are no funds for that kind of process. Now, we have been receiving a lot of pressure. Why can't you conduct a by-election in this area? People are about to kill each other. And we say there is no money. So, honorable members, this is one of the challenges, not because we are sitting on our laurels, we are not doing our work, but we don't have the funds to carry out these by-elections. Now, on voter education, Honorable Santa.
Mr. Chairman, we should conclude.
Yeah, I'm about to finish.
10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm about to finish.
Including your remarks.
Thank you. Honorable.
Any other additional remarks?
Yes, Honorable Santa actually was the last question. She was the first to ask, and I was on her questions. Now, voter education, the select of radios, I think my PRO and voter education have picked that concern. Some radios do not reach certain areas, and therefore we need maybe to engage as many radios as possible in a particular area. Now, the younger people, the young people who are cut off from being registered as voters, Honorable Chair and members, NIRA did what we call the mop-up exercise, which targeted majorly Ugandans who had attained 18 years of age, for those who were eligible to vote. And I think they generated the number, how many? 1.6 or something. They registered about 1.6 million eligible Ugandans who we believe are going, once they were confirmed citizens, are going to be included in the voters register. But secondly, during this update exercise, which is to start on Monday, we are targeting other Ugandans who have turned 18 years of age, or those who are over 18 years but have never registered as voters, to be given an opportunity to apply to become registered as voters. So we believe that by the time we reach the cutoff date of 10 February, we shall have captured all those Ugandans provided they turn up. However, Ugandans who will turn 18 after 10 February until polling day in January, those ones will not be part of the National Voters Register. No. Yes, I want to emphasize that there are Ugandans who turn 18 every day. Now, for Ugandans who will turn 18, who are 18 and will be 18 by 10th of February, during the update exercise, they will be given an opportunity to get registered as voters. But for those Ugandans who will turn 18 after the update has ended, up to the time of polling, because every day is a Ugandan to turn 18, we will not be able to include them on the National Voters Register. The cutoff date means this is the end of registering voters and also receiving applications for those who want to transfer voting location. Why? Because we need that register to be concluded at the earliest opportunity. The process of the general elections is not only in January 2026. We have the elections for the special interest groups, the youth, persons with disability, the elderly. And all these, despite their categorizations, they must be registered voters on the register. And by the time they go for nominations in their respective categories and poll and vote, because their voting starts early, polling for those groups starts early, I think they are starting around June or July, something like that. And secondly, by the time even you, the senior candidates, come for nominations, in this case September, we must have a complete, ascertainable, ready register. If you keep the register fluid, one, in the Ugandan electoral context, you create all sorts of innuendos and insinuations. Secondly, how do you plan? How do you plan for the number of ballot papers to print? Your ballot papers are not printed in this country, Honorable Member, Chair. They are printed outside. How do you plan how many ballot papers you're going to print if you do not have an ascertainable number of voters at a particular time? How do you plan for the number of polling stations you are going to set up? How do you plan for the number of ad hoc staff you are going to employ at a polling station? That's why the register must be concluded early before all these processes are undertaken, to avoid uncertainty, to avoid lack of planning, to avoid lack of budgeting, and so on and so forth. Because you cannot go to finance and say, let us print 30 million ballot papers because we expect the voters to be so many. No, you must have a very verifiable, ascertainable figure. So I want to repeat it, that any citizen who will turn 18 years after 10th February will not be on the National Voters Register. It's not a deliberate ploy by the Commission to disfranchise all those young people who have turned 18, but because for you to conduct a credible, free and fair election, you must have all these processes concluded. I think, honorable members, I have said this.
Chair, you see, what the chairperson is explaining, we've had this controversy even last election. And I think we need to get this clear. Whereas the Constitution and the law envisaged anybody above 18 to be eligible to vote. From the interpretation of the Electoral Commission, nobody of 18 years will vote. Yes, assuming the elections, you are going to hold them between 19th January to 6th February? Get the
12th January and the 9th February.
9th February. So assuming somebody was born on the 6th February, meaning it will be a whole year and will be 18, but will not be eligible to vote. So I think the country should be put on notice. Literally, nobody of 18 years will vote.
I think that will, if you put it in such general terms, Honorable Katuntu, with the due respect, it might appear a bit misleading. We are saying after the cutoff date.
Just interpret the date.
After the cutoff date.
Which is?
10th February.
10th February.
Yes.
So between 10th February.
Yes.
Up to 9th February. That's a year. Isn't it so?
Yes.
A whole year. And that means anybody in that year of majority, a whole year, will not vote. So that should be clear. And how do we address that? Because to me, Chair, you're not talking about, I don't know how many people turn 18 every year. No, every year, at the end of the year. You might find, is it 20,000, 100,000, whatever it is. So we are talking about maybe thousands of people who could be eligible for voting, but because of the explanation the chairman is giving, will not vote. So, to me, I'm concerned about that. Very, very concerned. Because us as lawmakers, it was not our intention that we are going to disenfranchise people of 18 years. This sort of interpretation, that word, disenfranchises them. And why, I'm sorry, Chair, why I think it's so critical. This is not a small matter. It's quite important. Whether it needs legal reform, we can do the legal reform to accommodate people of 18 years. Because these are too many people. You're talking about their own future. Two, I have seen, for example, that in NIRA, these days, like, they are registering people who are below 18, 16 years. So from that data bank, it is even possible, it is actually sustainable to know those who have turned 18 by that time. And when we are doing this, those sort of fellows, if the record is already with us as government. So I think we need to have more debate on that. It's not something we are going to sort out here, but we need to have a debate and see how do we find a way of accommodating legally.
Yes.
Because I'm appreciating the interpretation the chairman is giving. I do, and that you know I do. Two, I'm also appreciating the circumstances of sustainability that you need to know, and because the process is on. I think we must find a legal way of trying to act, but that will not be for them, it will be for us.
What happened on the floor of Parliament last time. So for me, I think this very time, this meeting cannot solve that problem. I think the Electoral Commission should come up and help us, as we, as the committee, also sit down and look into this matter seriously. Because the explanation that the Honorable Chair of the Commission gave is really very logical. Because the register is the foundation of the successful election. But also at the same time, we have the law stating that people who have reached 18 should vote. So that's the dilemma that we find ourselves in. And not to bog Parliament again on this very same issue, we need to sit down on both sides and come up with something which will help this country. Thank you.
Chair, if I can just briefly, it says any person, it starts with Article 59, I think briefly, let me refer to Article 59. Every citizen of Uganda over 18 years of age or above has the right to vote. That's the fundamental. That's the fundamental provision. Right, but then, fine. But then the question is, when does that right accrue? Now, Section 19 says, any person who is a citizen of Uganda, is 18 years of age or above, shall apply to be registered as a voter. Now, the point of you to register is when you are 18 years. At the time of applying to register, you must be 18 years. But not every Ugandan who will have turned 18 on polling day has the right to vote and shall apply to register as a voter. Maybe that is something to be amended.
No, Chair, you see, as I was saying, when we were enacting this constitution, did we have that in mind? Or what we had in mind is that people who are above 18, they have a right to what? To vote. Because that's constitutional right. Now, if we enact a law and take away the right and append it only to registration, automatically we disenfranchise the 18 people. So the issue is not you, forget about. The issue is about that section, whether it is actually constitutional even. Or even if it were, whether we did not disenfranchise people aged 18 years. And this one is about what you know very well more than anybody in this room, what we call the mischief rule. Why did the legislature enact a constitutional provision and attach it to 18 years?
I think the solution lies in...
The solution doesn't lie with you people. It is our debate, and at some point we will have to sort it out.
will have something to say in legislation.
Yes.
From the way I can see. It is something we need to work on and fix it. Honorable Tashovia.
I think I possess a duty to register before you exercise. That's right. I agree with Honorable Katuntu and everyone else that this is a matter that we may not resolve now. Maybe working together, we can see how we can enable every eligible citizen to exercise that right. Going forward.
I have for us to get nominated, you need senior 6 or an equivalent. Now, there are people also who by the time of nomination, they don't have. But then before the campaign starts, they get the qualification. Should they now come to Electoral Commission and say, I now qualify and I must? So that is the another.
That what?
Now let me do the follow-up question. I was just illustrating.
Thank you very much, Honorable Do.
Yes. So the follow-up questions, there are two. One, I appreciate the strict application of the law now.
That those ones are not being franchised.
In regard to these demarcations, and I wanted to know whether now the Commission is now prepared to implement the law to the dot, given that if that enforcement of the provision of the law is applied to parliamentary constituencies, then we are likely to reduce, because there are some constituencies here who do not meet the criteria. And I would be glad if that strict enforcement on the population quota and the rest is applied, across board. I don't want to single a particular one, but if you look at in the records, we know ourselves here. If that is applied, I'm not saying here. Yes. People are having something north, east, central in the constituencies and that. But the other one, yes, the other one regarding the irregularities. There is one statement that came from the head of state, the president, and his allegation was that 1 million votes, which either belonged to him or to his party, was irregularly either awarded or with the help, my understanding, yes. And I thought that was a very big indictment. And he challenged in public. He says, if the EC wants evidence, I'm ready to appear. And have you ever? Yes. Yes, I don't know whether the commission picked interest in that matter. Because, as you know, the head of state, apart from being a candidate, even if it was made by another candidate who lost the election, it would be a big issue in the integrity of election. Would you address us briefly on that issue as well?
Now, I will start with the issue of parliamentary constituencies. When you look at Article 63, Clause 4, I think it makes an exception. Also says that whereas under, I think, Clause 3, that the boundary of a constituency shall be such that the number of inhabitants in the constituency is as near as possible equal to the population quota. Then Clause 4 says, but for purposes of Clause 3 of this article, the number of inhabitants of a constituency may be greater or less than the population quota in order to take into account means of communication, geographical features, density of population, area, and boundaries of districts. So there's an exception that if for a parliamentary constituency, you may not stick to the population quota per se.
Mr. Chairman, I think that is the exact wording, even under the local government, info as well. I don't know if you could check. The same is also under, yes, subsection 4. They used, I think, the same. They have lifted the same. That's why I actually pushed that. But your team can check and confirm.
You want to jump away?
I want to believe that that the chairman has really responded. Yeah, save for the budgetary issue. If there are any issues that have not been well canvassed, you can include them in that response. Yeah. Otherwise, for now,
Time by close of business.
by close of business, very much.